What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Attack with me, Peter Santamaria. So excited because today I get to bring to you one of my favorite people, artists out there, Brian Ewing. Brian's really well known for doing gig posters, so basically artwork for touring bands across the world. They used to promote their stuff, so he's done stuff for like Metallica and Weezer, and the list goes on and on and on. I'm a owner of one of his pieces and one of my favorite prints that I have in the house. A creature from the Black Lagoon, half X-ray, half like in the flesh, super sci-fi and staticky and awesome. I wouldn't be growing in the way that I'm growing as an artist and getting as much traction as I've been getting lately without Brian Ewing. I was kind of like a chicken shit about leaving Miami and doing shows outside of Florida because I couldn't figure out the logistics behind it. And Brian was like, dude, get your shit, get on a plane, and get out to California if you want to make something happen. And he was right, and I kept taking that advice over and over again and going to New York and all over other places in the country, and it changed everything. So I'll always be grateful to Brian for that, and I don't think I could ever repay him. He's a great dude, great heart, great mind, even better artist. See for yourself. I feel like you're probably one of the best people to have around and talk to because I always find you wise, you know, and full of wisdom, and you always laugh at that. But you know, you of all my friends, I feel like you're the most sensible and most full of wisdom, and it's not just because you have a wizard beard; it's because you have experience. And I wanted to start at the top of us talking about the fact that I can trace all the wonderful things that have happened in my life in the last 2 years back to you kicking my ass about going to Designer Con a couple years ago, which was when I first started to get my name out to a broader audience. And it's a quick background so people know, like I was, you know, only doing shows in Florida. And when we were speaking, you had always told me, you got to do this, you got to do that, you got to do this, you got to do that. And at one point, you're like, you got to get out of Florida and you got to do a show outside of Florida. And you said, hey, look, Designer Con has a wait list open. Why don't you apply to that? And I took a biggest shit in my pants. I'm like, oh, fuck, I can't do that. How am I going to get all my shit over there? And you were like, oh, don't worry, just sign up and see what happens. I'm like, okay. And I only signed up because I thought, I'm sure I've told you this, because I thought I wasn't going to get picked. And then I could at least, you know, not be ashamed of the fact that I didn't go because I said, hey, I tried, and, you know.
Sure.
And then when they said,
but you,
yeah, they picked me and then I had a month to get my shit together, which was insane. But anyway, long story short, I went, and literally all the wonderful things that have happened, including me being able to work now with Skybound, can be traced back to that moment. And so I've told you before, but I'm so grateful for you and for really the generosity of that advice. And that's like one of the first things I wanted to discuss is why do you think you're like that? Why do you feel comfortable being generous? Because I think it's difficult for a lot of artists to share in advice that might create other successful artists, at least in my experience. And that goes back to being in a band and being a kid playing with older people in bands. At every point that I had a question, I always remember being shut down by somebody until someone showed up and kind of helped out a little bit. And so that's what you did for me, and I wonder what motivates you to be like that.
Everything that I've learned, or everything that I do now, I had to learn on my own, including drawing. You know, like I learned the basics in art school, but I dropped out, so I didn't learn how to use a computer. You know, I didn't learn how to even make a business card or how to even ink with a brush. So it's hard. And I didn't grow up with a lot of positive reinforcement with being an artist all the way up until my 20s. Even it was terrible. And I had to ignore a lot of people in order to get to where I wanted to be in my life. And when I see other people struggling, I sympathize, you know, and I understand that it's hard. I'm not giving you the keys to the castle. I'm just kind of pointing you in the direction of the castle. It's like, here you go. This is how you can do it. But if you don't want to, that's up to you. And you're going to keep struggling, you know. And I tried. And, you know, I can sleep better at night knowing I at least tried. It's, you know, for every person that listens to me, there are 100 people that don't. you know, because A, it's too much work, and B, they have to do it themselves. And a lot of people don't like that idea, you know. And I used to get really upset about it, like very upset. Like, why aren't you using logic to kind of, you know, improve your life and your career? And now I'm just kind of like, well, all right, man, you know, I'll catch you later. You know, hopefully you can still do this as a living in a year. I don't know. You know, it all depends on the way people treat me. Like, I met you because my fiance and I had a layover in Miami from midnight till 8 a.m. one night. And I posted on Instagram, like, I don't know anybody in Miami. If they want to hang out, let me know. And you're the only person that did. And, you didn't murder us, so that was good. And, you didn't sell our kidneys or organs. But, you know, someone went out of their way who, you said you had met me years ago, and that was, you get this thing called like Comic-Con Visa where you meet somebody, but you only talk to them for 5 minutes every year.
Like, my brother and I must have been like 20 years old, and it was like our first time going to Comic-Con, and we stopped at your booth. I think it was a table back then, and we stopped because you had all this awesome band merch, that you were working on, which, by the way, we should talk about what you were working on around that time. Sure. But it was like I remember it being, I think it was something either at the drive-in or Mars Volta. Does that ring a bell or something like that? Yeah.
Yeah. I'd done, that was like, 2005.
That's exactly, I think around the same time. So I think we were there 2006 or 7, but we were like just so excited to find cool band merch. Really, my brother found your stuff. And so I remember talking to you for a little bit. That was pre-beard. I think you had 0 beard back then.
Yeah.
And and it's funny because for years and years and years, we had your pins on our book bags. And then I looked you up online maybe a decade later to see what you were up to. And that's when I started chatting with you again. That's it.
Funny.
But so for people who don't know your work, though, you work designing. How would you describe what you do?
God.
Well, you don't have to try so hard because we'll pop visuals in here, and so you don't have to like describe every line, but generally speaking.
Sure. I guess I'm an artist, so I do rock posters. I've been doing that for a little over 17 years. I'm a tattoo artist. I've been doing that a little over 3 years, and I'm a co-owner in a toy company called Metacrypt, and been doing that for about 5 years. And then whatever else I got to do to keep things going. I guess encapsulated, I'm a small business owner. That's what I do. Because I'm the CEO and the janitor of all this,
And you've been doing it for some time. So when we met you in 2006 or so, how long had you been already professionally working at that point?
I don't say my career started until I quit my day job. And so that was like in the middle of 2002. And so, 3.5 years. And man, I had no idea it was going to last that long. It was just like, well, I hate my job. So if this doesn't pan out, I'll just get another job, and start over. Kinko's is always hiring.
That was one of the scariest things for me, was quitting teaching. And that was just only a few months ago. I still kind of like have panic attacks every once in a while that I quit my main job. But I feel like when I see what you're doing, and I always pay attention, because you always, like I said, you're to me, there's a lot of value in your experience, because not only have you done so much and experimented so much, but you're also good at articulating what has been worthwhile for you. And so when I pay attention to what you're doing, I notice that some of this shit that I want to do is not going to be possible until I get my other job out of the way. And I couldn't do it until Skybound came around and helped me out. But it's amazing that now I see how much work you've been putting in. I mean, I imagine how much work you've been putting in based on how much work now is on my plate, even with the help they're giving me. So it's insane. Going back to talking about all the work that you do and coming up. So did you feel like when you came in, was there anybody helping you out in the sense, like, I know you mentioned you didn't have a lot of help coming up, so that's why you're willing and able?
No. How do I put it? I used to work at a Kinko's in Minneapolis, and my friend Jason Knudsen was like, "You don't know how to use a computer?" This was like 2000. No, I'm sorry. It was 1998. And so he's like, "This is how you use Illustrator." And that formula he showed me is what I used for 17 years. It hadn't changed. And Dave Johnson, the comic book artist, he's one of the first artists I met when I moved to LA. And he had an extra table at San Diego Comic-Con like in 2000, 2001 maybe. And so this is before it was impossible to get a booth there. And he's just like, "Do you want it?" And so I just went to San Diego with like a portfolio of posters, and I just put them out there. And that was my first Comic-Con experience. Because of that, I started looking into how do I get a booth there. And so, and I guess Dave Johnson also at the same time really didn't use computers much. And so he's like, "Do you know how to color on the computer?" I'm like, "Yeah, this is how I do it." He's like, "Do you want to color some of my covers?" So I colored some stuff for 100 Bullets. I got to design stuff with his artwork for 100 Bullets, like trade paperbacks, Spider-Man, the Spectre, Batman. He was giving me jobs, which then gave me the experience. And so one day he was interviewed in Wizard magazine. Everybody remembers that. And they were like, "Who are some of the artists that you like?" And he mentioned me. And an editor at DC saw that and hired me. And I got my first comic book job that way. And I was very lucky. I didn't have to wait in line at a convention.
What was the comic?
And I didn't have to. Detective Comics 776. So everybody's like, trying to get a cover job, but you usually have to draw interiors for a while to prove that you're reliable. And I feel like such an asshole. This was 18 years ago. I can't remember the editor's name right now, and I feel terrible. But this guy took a chance on me, and I got to skip to the head of the line. And I remember calling up Dave, and I'm like, "Dude, I got a cover job with DC." He's like, "Oh, okay." And I was like, "Detective Comics." He's like, "What? You asshole." Because he was just like, "Man, it's a lot of work to get cover jobs, and especially for a flagship title like that." And then I did some stuff for Nightwing, and I realized like doing covers was the same as doing rock posters. It's the same format even. And I made more money and I had a lot more freedom doing rock posters. So I kind of just let the cover stuff kind of die out. Plus I was terrible at anatomy. I couldn't draw superheroes to save my life.
But you were stylizing quite a bit.
And I was young. Yeah, I was really young, and I didn't understand how to be more professional because it's always really necessary. You don't have to be the greatest artist, but you have to be professional, and you have to be likable, and that will carry you throughout your whole life. Like if you're a really great artist, but you're an asshole and you can't meet a deadline, then you're not going to last long, Or if you're really good, but you can't meet deadlines, you're not going to last long, Or if you're an asshole, but you're really good, you're not going to last long, It's if it's two of the three things, it's your career is short, I guess. I don't know. So yeah, Dave Johnson was really helpful, and the rest of it was just, how often and how fast can I fuck up? Because the sooner you mess up, the quicker you learn. Like if you ever, we were talking about Christo earlier and the Future podcast and all that, and he was interviewing somebody, and they were talking about failure rate. Failure rate's really important as for personal growth and professional growth because if you spend a year and after that year you found out you did it wrong, you wasted a year. But if you spend 3 days and found out, oh, you did it wrong, you only wasted 3 days. And then from your mistakes, you learn how to do it correctly.
Yeah.
I guess.
Well, so those are kind of like the points that you're bringing up that I was excited to hear from you. They're kind of like, outside of the art world, it's common sense. You would think, right? It applies to like job interviews and interpersonal relationships on a professional level, but it's not common. Is the point? And I feel like I was. When you were giving me advice on certain things, I'm like, oh my God, this is awesome. Maybe this is a sign that there are a lot of people in this world who are like that. And I was wrong about, my preconceived notions about people trying to help, or because it's no one's responsibility to help me out in any way, but no one.
Not at all.
I don't expect it to be at all. I appreciate it because it scratches this itch that I have to find community in my industry. And I don't think that that's easy at all. And the more I spend time in meeting people, I'm realizing, oh, this is a solitary industry. And part of the reason is people aren't looking to build that community. They're not interested. They're not interested in sharing. Do you have, because talking about, Dave Johnson, for example, you still consider him a friend, I assume?
Regretfully so. No, yeah. He's still a good dude. I don't live in LA anymore, so we only see each other at conventions. So it's always the catch up and, probably a good story about Dave is when he first met me, he was just like, oh, you do rock posters. That's so cool. And I'm like, really? You do covers? Like you're the guy who did Super Patriot and all this other shit. And one day, after I quit the day job, he had seen me struggling and he was like, look, let me lend you some money. And he did, and I could pay my rent. And then my poster career was doing well. I was getting paid, but I hadn't paid him back yet. And one day he's just like, look, you owe me money. I was like, yeah. Why haven't you paid me back? I see you spending your money and all that, but you're not paying me back. And it taught me a valuable lesson because he's like, as of today, you decide if you're going to be an artist or not, because you can't half-ass it. And if you do, you're not going to get very far. And, when your friends help you out, you got to take that serious, because I have nothing to gain by lending you money other than seeing you succeed. And he just was really straight up forward with me, and it hurt to hear. And after that, I made sure I never did that again. It was a valuable lesson. So, as far as like community and stuff like that, it's the same as in a normal life. Friends come and go, and it's just how it is. You'll lose your community if you succeed. You'll lose your community if you don't agree with their politics. And, I had some really good successes in the beginning of my career, and I lost friends because of it. And it was very confusing because I didn't get there by stabbing anybody in the back. I got there through hard work, and it was a bummer. So it was a good lesson to kind of go, okay, if you do meet other artists and you're able to help them out, that's cool. But if all they do is come to you with their hand out, then, you kind of have to keep them at a distance. So like when I got that DC cover job, all these people like kind of knew, were like, dude, hook it up, get me a job there. And I'm like, I'm so young. And I'm like, sure, I'll try. And I got this one dude who, I got him a couple of jobs that way. Never, ever talked to me after that. And then a couple years later, he saw me doing some other stuff. He's like, hey, man, can you hook it up? And I'm like, you can go fuck yourself. Like, apparently I'm not your friend, if I did this for you and then you only come back when you need something. So, yeah, being an artist can be lonely. And you just kind of have to learn how to roll with it. And when you do have people, you do have a community, just really enjoy it, and try to just check your ego at the door, because that can sometimes get in the way of friendships.
Do you feel like you have...
I don't know.
It makes total sense. Do you feel like at this point that you have anybody when it comes to mentoring, like that can give you advice when you need it? Because I always think about that for the people who are giving me information and wisdom that they have. Do you guys have it? Do you feel like you have someone that you call, even for simple stuff like, what do you think about this drawing, or like, should I do this show, or something like that?
Besides
Well, yeah.
failure, being a good teacher. Yeah, I do have friends.
It wasn't the
Sometimes I
question.
forget
Yeah,
to
the
show
question
them.
wasn't, do you have friends?
Yeah, I know. It's I know.
But
Shut up! You're
you know
making
what
me
I mean.
nervous.
No one's
Um,
watching this.
yeah, no. Sometimes I'll remember to show what I'm working on to my friends. Sometimes I forget because it's like deadline, or I'm pretty sure this is going to turn out fine. Um, there are times though where it's like you call up your friends to do the tell me I'm pretty, let me show you this and tell me that
Yeah.
it's good, right? And most of my friends are very honest with me because that's what they get from me. So they'll be like, yeah, this is good, but you can fix it here. And you have to be mature enough to accept
Yeah.
that,
I
you
saw a
know.
clip of yours
Um,
online on your website where you're talking. It was from a documentary you were in called "Made It." I guess is that
mm,
making it? Made it? Making it. Okay.
making it.
And
Yes.
there was a moment in the video where you talk about something that I relate to, and I feel like a lot of artists might relate to, is going to art school, right? And how you didn't really get the education that you were probably hoping to get, or didn't know you wanted or needed.
Yeah.
And what do you think? Sometimes I want to ask, what would have happened if we got the education we wanted? Because I used to be sitting at home and looking through magazines like Amazing Figure Modeler, or and I would look in the
Mhm.
back, and there was always these classes for like Tom Savini's class or George Duchel's class. I'm like, oh, I wish. Or one of them was oh, the name was on the tip of my tongue now. The guy who, the famous comic artist, oh, Kubert, the Joe Kubert School. Oh, to go to the Joe Kubert School,
Oh
you
yeah.
know. And
Yeah.
what was that like for you in, like, in a nutshell? And at what point did you feel like, well, I'm gonna have to teach myself? Because that's even before a lot of information was readily available online.
Uh, I couldn't afford art school. I mean, I wasn't stupid.
Yeah.
I was poor, and my mom was not thrilled on me deciding art school over college. So I had to figure out a way to get a personal loan from my grandmother, and then I worked before I went to class, and then during my breaks I worked in the library, and then after that I went to another job, and then I went home and I worked on my projects, and it was killing me. I'm 18 and I'm just stressing out, and I would also on my lunch breaks go and show my portfolio to the local businesses trying to get freelance work, which I never got because I sucked. But I learned how to show my portfolio and how to talk to people about my work by doing a really bad job at it. And so as far as like, could school have, if it were structured better, made me a better artist? I don't know. Like at this point, I can't lament over it, because I went to the American Academy of Art. Alex Ross graduated from there. Jill Thompson, Thomas Blackshear, Gil Elvgren, the famous pinup artist, used to teach there. And so the irony is I dropped out. I defaulted on my student loans, but they have a display case of my work next to Alex
That's
Ross's
wild.
work. And, a couple of years ago, they asked me to lecture, and I was like, you realize I dropped out? They're like, yeah, that's okay. And I'm like, can I talk about my experience? They're like, okay. So after an hour, talk about what I did, telling them funny stories. The students, I just said, hey, did you like the lecture? They're like, yeah. And I'm like, do you want to do what I do? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, okay, drop out. And the look on everybody's faces were like, what do you mean? I was like, I never finished school, you know? And so my student loan debt wasn't as bad as what
Wow.
yours is going to be. And some of the teachers were like, doing the, no, don't say that. And a couple other teachers thanked me later, just like, look, we can't say this, but I'm glad you did, because either some students are too good, they don't need to be here, and some students will never be good and they need to do something else. And we can't tell them that, because at the end of the day, art school is a business, and the few good artists are like, if it weren't for all the bad artists, the good artists wouldn't have a school to go to, because all those bad artists are paying their tuition to
Yeah.
keep the lights on. And I tried teaching a couple years ago here at Columbus College of Art and Design, and I was just really frustrated by the lack of passion in the students. Like the class that I taught, it wasn't required, so you had to sign up for it if you really wanted to take it. And a lot of these kids were, not putting in the effort, and it frustrated me. So I don't know if you like. I taught myself a lot of things out of desperation and frustration because I knew that nobody was going to knock on my door and give me all the secrets. And I knew that other artists had made it without art school, so why couldn't I? There's more than one way to get to where you want to go.
It's interesting.
So I don't even think I answered that.
Yeah, that's it. It's like talking about how you go into, and by the way, I didn't go to art school per se, but the college that I went to had an art program that I was in. For anybody listening,
that was probably a better education.
Yeah, in some ways. Look, there are two professors that I had that really were responsible for me learning. Well, I would say three professors learning the basics that I needed, but they happened at weird points in my education. Like if I had all three of those at the beginning, I would probably have been done in half the time. But and it was a figure sculpture teacher, a guy named Ralph Buckley, who passed away. And man, I learned so much. And he was a hard ass dude. He didn't give a shit about what you thought. I remember I made this first big anatomy sculpture, and I thought it was so awesome. It was in regular terracotta clay, but we had built an armature underneath. And I'm like, oh, perfect, ready to fire it now. He's like, you can't fire this terracotta sculpture with an armature underneath, idiot. I mean, he told me idiot, and like I didn't, and because he was explaining how the clay shrinks and it's gonna crack and explode, and he goes, but trust me, give it 2 weeks and you're gonna be embarrassed that you ever asked me to preserve this thing. And I'm like, wow, dude, I'm the kind of person who thrives on that kind of like talking to. I love that. I'm like, oof, I got you, okay. And then I also had a professor early on who taught me figure drawing, and it was the first figure drawing class I ever had. It was in college, believe it or not. But more importantly, and her name was Jennifer Basile. She's still teaching and an amazing artist in her own right. But another one, a hard ass. You got to do shit like this. Stop fucking thinking that your style matters right now. You know what I mean? Because you don't have a style. I remember, dude, listen to this.
That's awesome.
Listen to this.
Yeah.
And there was like a self-portrait assignment. It was one a week, a full 18 by 24 self-portrait based on what we're learning in class. You take it home and do it with no guidance. Every time I was trying to avoid drawing realistically, and I would draw like a different comic book artist. But I thought I was so smart and good, and it was such shit when I look back. But finally, she got so fed up in the middle of the critique, and she goes, if you're not going to take this fucking class seriously, you need to drop out. And I was like, dude, it was awesome. It was awesome. It's what I needed to hear. And my point in saying all this is that that kind of education needed to come early before I could get into conceptual stuff. And the conceptual stuff came way too early, and I had no idea what I was doing. And that's what art school feels like it was for a lot of people. I don't know if you relate to that. And not art school, but art program within the school per se.
I don't know. Think about when you were younger, you desired praise. If your parents said you were good, then you thought you were good.
Right.
But your parents aren't professional artists. And nowadays, like when I did the one class at CCAD here, we were told that we couldn't yell at the students. Some kids brought in notes from their doctors saying that like negative reinforcement, we can't do anything. And there were a couple of students where I was like, just don't come back. Like if you don't want to learn, I can't teach you. And I had a teacher named Richard Krajewski at the American Academy of Art in Chicago. The first day of class, he handed out applications for truck driving school because he said most of you won't last a semester, so you might as well find a profession you're good at. And it was just like, fuck you, man. And then after a while, like, I was always trying to fight him with the projects that he gave us, and I realized every time I was wrong. But I still fought it until one day I'm like, I'm so dumb. I need to listen instead of push back because I don't know anything, even though I want to think I do. So yeah, that gets frustrating. But if you really don't want to learn, then you're not going to learn, and you have to be honest with yourself. It's if I don't know, a lot of people aren't. They just look for praise, and it's really easy to find. And if you look back on your life and feel that you didn't grow as much as you could have, it's because you got in your own way. It's nobody's fault. Like, school is there to get you started, but it's not there to make you the artist you're going to be. But it's definitely there to get a lot of bad drawing out of you.
What?
That's about it. That's like from an old Chuck Jones quote.
What motivated you? Because I remember so many critiques were crushing, and I remember so many peers would just drop out and stop trying, and for me, like, I was always, I had this fantasy in my head that still plays out to this day, that one day I'm going to be at a convention. And first, the fantasy was to be able to be good enough to be at a convention. But I would be at a convention showing my artwork to some of my heroes, and they would be like, what the hell is this shit? And so my fantasy was,
it's your
fantasy in my head was that I would get to a point where anybody gave a shit to look, and then the fear of shame if I didn't bring my A game to it. And so I always had this thing where I was never good enough, because I was always comparing myself to whoever I thought was the best in the world. And that's, it's such a gap. And so until I felt like I got to that point, I couldn't show anything. And that's never going to happen. There's always going to be someone that you perceive is light years beyond you. But my motivation was that I wanted to be part of this, like, in my head, this existed. Like, all the best artists would go hang out. Like, Mike Mignola and Frank Miller go hang out and have a beer. and then they bring in the new guy. And then Alex Ross pops in. And, hey, there's Jim Lee at the bar. Like, in my head, that's what it's like. And so if I could get into a convention and rub elbows with these people, then I could hang in the crowd of people that I respected. It wasn't like a fanboy thing. It was, these are the people that I feel like are the Mount Rushmore currently, or that are alive, and I want to just be around that. I don't have to be considered among them. I just want to be able to be around that, like the fucking, I don't know, like the squire at the round table, so to speak. You know what I mean? And so that would motivate me.
Did you realize it's...
No, yeah. I was just going to say...
Sorry. So that
I guess so, but
that's healthy.
I think what you were about to say, did you realize what? It was all bullshit.
No, did you realize it's all those people are socially awkward and self-deprecating and can't stand some of
I gotta be honest with you, that's
people?
Such a crushing reality that I find more often than not. So when I find people who are not like that, I just cling to, for dear life. I'm like, yes, positivity and good people. But yeah, I don't like to name names, but there's a ton of people out there that I wish I had never met in person, because I would keep the fantasy going way stronger. Yeah,
you have to separate the art from the artist sometimes, because the person they let you see is not always the person they really are, and it's weird. And I might have friends that are really well known in the art scene who everybody's like, oh my God, I can't believe you get to stand next to this person. But I know this person, and I realize, like, this person's an asshole sometimes. Like, I just got to get away from them. And it is what it is. We all have our personas, and, you just got to, I don't know, you just got to work with it. I feel like I'm meandering on this, though.
The original point was motivation, and that I'm motivated by being respected amongst the people I respect. That's it.
Well, you didn't say you were motivated by money or fame. You were more motivated by being at the same table as your heroes. Like, that's healthy. Like, doesn't matter, if you're motivated by fame or money, that's fine too. It's just like, let's be honest with yourself. Why are you doing it? Do you plan on creating the next Batman, or do you just want to play in that sandbox with those characters? It's entirely up to you.
What's yours? Do you?
Pretty much the same. Like, I knew who Dave Johnson was before I met him. I never thought I'd meet him. And, I never thought I would have made it this far, Like I met Frank Miller once because he fell on me. I was at a party that me and my friends crashed at Comic-Con, and Frank Miller was a little tipsy, and everybody's like, "Holy shit, it's Frank Miller!" And he tripped and fell on me and knocked me over, and that was me meeting Frank Miller. You know, like, wow, Frank Miller fell on me.
That's
You
great,
know,
dude.
it's just weird. But once you realize, like, a lot of these people are really normal, and when they let their guard down around you, that's a good feeling, you know, because they realize, all right, you know, you don't have ulterior motives. You're just trying to be cool. You're just trying to be a friend, and you're not hitting me up for work or, you know, contacts, and you're not trying to show me your work, which is good too. Like, I learned early on, you know, wait for someone to ask before you show.
Well, I wonder about that because I don't know if I fall into that school of thought because a lot of the people who I would need to show it to, I find are too caught up in more important things than asking me about my work. And so sometimes I feel like I've had to strategically set up a chain of events that would lead to them asking about my work. Not just walk up with my art like this, you know, but more like, you know, getting to the point where they naturally are curious.
I guess, or they make the connection like, oh, you do art. Oh, it doesn't suck. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Now we have more in common. Having a booth at a convention was the easiest way for me to do that. It was like having your own gallery, you know, and if someone walked by, they come back and they want to talk to you, and then you know who they are. You're like, holy shit, you know, so-and-so who directed this movie or this artist who drew this book is talking to me, and they see my work and they aren't like angry at me. That's cool. You know, that's your in. I don't know. Yeah, you know, going back to the whole, like, you know, what was my motivation or my fantasy, was very similar. You know, the artwork that I saw moved me so much that I wanted to recreate that art. You know, I wanted to be that good, and I did my best to ignore everybody who told me I couldn't do it. And, you know, it's a little lonely, but, you know, I'm happy to have survived and made it this far, I guess. Well, I don't know.
You're an artist that everybody seems to know, which is what I find. Like when I'm talking to other people and I mention, oh, you know, one like last Designer Con, I told a few people that we were gonna go have dinner because they had invited me to do something, and everybody in the group that I mentioned that to knew your work, like, oh, I love that, you know, I love his work, blah blah blah. So, and I feel like that happens to me quite a bit, where people just know your work and respect your work. And talking about that specifically, when I was seeing some of your screen prints at first, I had no idea, except for knowing you, that I would have had no idea, I should say, that so much of your work is done by hand traditionally with brush and ink before you get to the color. Why do you like to do that still when there's, and I'm not questioning you as how dare you, more like what yeah. But
what's wrong with you?
Why do you like to continue using that nowadays?
Part of it's just like influence, you know, like my introduction to art, you know, was done traditionally, and I really appreciate seeing it, and I respect it. And going back to other artists that you respect, you know, you kind of want their respect for, not for how much money you make, but for how hard you work. And also, you do anything long enough, you get good at it. You know, whether it's promoting yourself or using a brush to do inking, you just get good at it. Kind of like, you know, your woodcuts. You didn't start out good, but look at you now, you know. And then also financial reasons. You know, I could do everything on my iPad, but I can't sell that sketch to anybody, you know. I have a tangible piece of art that I can hang up in a show, or I can sell to somebody, you know, if they feel inclined. And also what works for me is I stand out. You know, when everybody expects everything to be digital and you kind of surprise them by showing them traditional, they remember you. You know, that, you know, that is the byproduct of just trying to do something that I love the way I love doing it. The monetary.
It's
and
interesting,
the
right? It's like
standing out.
your work process is almost a selling point in the sense that it's become niche and it's become like rare and like a novelty. Oh, he does it by hand. Isn't that weird? Like that's becoming less and less common.
Yeah, it's kind of like it's right up there with facial hair. People are impressed you have facial hair, and it's like, what the fuck, man? Like if you do nothing, you can grow facial hair. Same thing with like drawing by hand. Everybody is looking. Maybe it's just young people or people starting out. They want to do things the fastest, easiest way. And if I tried to learn how to do everything on an iPad, I would have some growing pains. And so I don't want to do it that way. Like I've learned how to do something that it's now fast and easy for me. I don't know. It's never anything like I ever say,
Right,
like, did you know I drew this by hand? It never occurs to me. But I always see like kids will like tag me and stuff and go, what program does this guy use? And I'm like, it's called a brush, or a pencil. And, it's funny. And I might as well do it until I can't. Brian Boland, the comic artist, he's strictly digital now because the older you get, the crappier your eyesight gets. So, everything he does looks hand-drawn because he's had years of experience doing that. So he knows how to make that work for him digitally. And I don't know. Yeah. There's no autocorrect on any of this shit.
Yeah,
so
tell me about it.
It's kind of dangerous.
It's funny because
it's fun to do that.
I noticed that the medium that I work in affects my outcome in the sense that carving linoleum and wood requires me to think about the design in a different way. And because you only get one cut and then it's cut, there's no going back, like you said. A lot of the times you work with what happens and you evolve the design and it kind of turns into other things as it goes. And when I work on something digitally and try to make it feel like my same style, it's more work in that I have to remind myself to stop self-editing and micro checking and getting so caught up in that. Yeah.
Zooming in.
And when I do those things, when I use the tools of the digital software and hardware, I notice that at the end it doesn't feel right. And I have to do things. Sometimes I'll have to carve a little piece of something that doesn't feel right digitally, scan it, and then trace over that. So because that area, it's a whole thing. I barely work digitally, but when I do, I take a lot of time to make sure it feels like my stuff. But the medium changes how I think, how I design, how I draw, and it fights with me a little bit. Like it says, no, you're gonna stick with this now, bitch. Like you carve this shit, that's what's here. Versus I could redo 17 different approaches to something. When you started tattooing, the first thing that went through my mind, because I've always wanted to learn how to tattoo, and the only reason I didn't ever start is because the gatekeeping here was so heavy that I was just like, in my mind, like, fuck you, dude. Like, I bet none of you can actually draw, for real, which is not true. There are plenty of them that can, but there are some.
You'd be surprised.
I have been surprised. But, there are so many that don't. They just kind of like have like a formula. Regardless, they make good tattoos. Who cares? My point is, I was offended that my body of work at the time, which was still pretty advanced, wasn't enough to say, hey, I'm serious and I would like to learn. I had some guys tell me, you're going to have to be shop bitch for a year. And I'm like, what? And it was like, in my mind, I'm sure I'll offend somebody by saying this, but I thought that was the biggest pile of horseshit. And because it's not that you shouldn't have certain thresholds that people have to cross. It's just that I feel like in the same way that your school owes you a degree, in my opinion, at this point, like an honorary degree, I feel like a tattoo shop that sees someone like you or me coming in as an apprentice, potentially, maybe there are a few things, and I definitely need to learn before I tattoo anybody. I get that. But don't make me take the trash out for a fucking year before you show me how to use the gun. You know what I mean? Am I oversimplifying it from your experience? Yeah.
Maybe.
Or what?
I got
What was your
lucky. I didn't
experience? Yeah.
have to be. I got lucky. I'm apprenticing under a tattoo artist named Mike Moses, who's actually tattooed
Yeah.
you, and that's like another
Yeah.
thread that we have together, you know. And when I got back from Miami after meeting you, I showed him the photo, and he
That's funny.
totally remembered you. I was having a really rough day with tattooing, and this other tattoo artist named Gregory Lam said, "Look, man, not everybody is allowed to be invited into it. You can't just walk up and say, 'I want a tattoo,'
Got it.
because everybody likes the idea until they realize how much work has to go into it. It's glamorous once you kind of get a mastery of it. And once you do get the opportunity to try tattooing, you will, because it is nothing like drawing on paper. I talk to Mike about this all the time. He's like, yeah, man, I never had self-esteem issues until I started tattooing. And I could relate to that because I'm coming from doing rock posters for so many years to trying something new, and I'm middle-aged. You know, like my teacher is younger than me, which I'm totally cool with, but I find humorous.
Right.
And I'm trying to learn something new, and I thought I would master it in 6 months, and I haven't, you know. And I work really hard at it. It's just one of those things that.
What are those?
You know.
What are those things that are? Because look, again, speaking from never having done it, what are the things that translate well from drawing and keeping a steady hand and all that? And what are the things that you would never expect to be a hurdle for you?
Confidence. You know, if you aren't confident with a tattoo, you can't just ball it up into it's not like a piece of paper you can ball it up and throw it in the trash and start over.
But in terms of technical application, like what's...
Well, your pencil doesn't vibrate, doesn't make noise, you know. You don't there isn't the pressure of your client being nervous and in pain. You know, paper doesn't sweat, paper doesn't move. And there's also the people skill aspect of it. You need to have people skills to make the experience better for you and for your client. So you don't have to talk to your drawing when you're working on it at home, but if you're tattooing somebody, you do. So there's a lot of things you don't expect. Then there's the cost, you know, like when you apprentice, they don't just hand you tattoo machines. You have to buy those. And that starts at like $200 to $300 a piece. You need a liner and a shader. Now you need needles, you need tubes, you need rubber bands, you need pigment, you need a power source, you need an armrest, you need a tape. It's crazy. Doing my taxes, I had to look at what I made last year tattooing, and I realized all that I made went back into paying for my materials. So I was like, all right, well, I guess I broke even on this. You know, I could write this off. But those are things you don't consider. And then there is the gatekeeper aspect of it. Like, just because I started tattooing didn't mean other tattooers respected me. Other tattooers locally would come into the shop, and they knew who I was just because the community is small enough. They ignored me. I'd be like, yo, what's up? They're like, hey, and then they would go talk to the real tattooers, the guys that weren't apprenticing, that were, a couple years in, and always ignored me. And I'm just kind of like, okay, cool. I'll remember this. That's cool. That's cool. And I could kill myself trying to earn their respect, or I could just try my best to do good art, and they'll respect me that way. And that's what I'm trying to do. But it's a weird thing, man. It's.
Do you feel like you were?
I'm trying to be less negative.
No, just being honest. Do you feel like you were treated differently than you as somebody with an artist background than you would have if you were not? Yeah, how so?
Yes. I didn't have to be the shop bitch.
Okay, that's cool. There you go.
I didn't have to. I wasn't washing.
Is that because it was Mike?
But
that was your friend. Or do you think you would have had that in another shop?
Yeah, but once he started
Sorry.
Say that again.
I said, do you think it was because it was Mike who knew you and your background, or if you had gone into a shop that you did not know the owner so well, would you have been able to parlay your career into skipping shop bitch?
Oddly enough, Mike was my second mentor. I had an apprenticeship for about a week with another guy here, and he really didn't want to apprentice me, but he took me on anyway, and it was confusing. So he kept giving me all these challenges like, okay, you have to be published in a tattoo magazine before I can even consider apprenticing you. And that's like saying you need job experience at an entry-level job. And so I was like, all right, that's kind of backwards. He's like, those are the rules, man. You just either you do it or you don't. I was like, okay, well, which magazine? He's like, what do you mean? I was like, oh, I've been published in like 2 or 3 dozen tattoo magazines. I'm going to be in this tattoo book with another local artist named Mike Moses and a bunch of other people. And I have a 2-page spread coming out in Inked magazine a couple of months later. Does that work? And he's like, fuck. So he's like, well, you need to draw up some flash. So I drew up some flash, and he's like, God damn it. He's like, you need to get at least 6 people to volunteer to let you tattoo them in the shop. And I'm like, okay. Can I use social media? He's like, yeah, no problem. So the next day I'm like, I have 3 dozen people. Is that cool? And he's like, fuck. And I was like, look, man, can I just come in and ghost you, just shadow you, and just get the shop experience? I've been working solitaire for so many years. Like, I would love to see how the experience is around other people. He's like, yeah, no problem. And he's like, but my boys don't like you. My guys at the shop. And I'm like, I just moved here. No one knows me, And I was like, all right, cool, man, whatever. So after my first day, all the guys are like, dude, you wanna grab a beer? And he's like, fuck. And so after a couple of days of me being there, he's like, don't come in today. I'm taking a sick day. I was like, all right, cool. So I wait a couple of days. I'm like, hey, can I come in? He's like, no, not today. Not a good day. And then, it keeps happening. I text him, I call him, I email him. He doesn't respond. I'm like, fuck, man, this guy just ghosted me. That sucks. And 6 months later,
6 months,
maybe like a year later, I had just gotten tattooed by Mike, which you can kind of see here. And I was, a few months into my apprenticeship, and I went to a bar, and I'm covered in saran wrap, and I see him there, and I'm like, God damn it, this guy. And he's like, hey, man, what's up? You just get tattooed? I'm like, yeah. He's like, who did it? I was like, Mike Moses. He's like, oh, that's really nice. He's like, you still tattooing? I'm like, yeah. Mike's apprenticing me, and he's like, fuck. And then he's like, can I buy you a beer? And I'm like, nah, man, I'm holding one. I'm good. And then I see him a couple weeks later, and he's like, I'm sorry. I didn't want you to tattoo.
Why?
And so I remember going in the next... ego? I don't know.
You were a threat?
It's... I shouldn't have been. I would have only been an asset if I could take my audience and bring some of them to his shop, because when you have tattooers working at your shop, they make you money. So the bigger of an audience they have to get tattooed, the better it is for that shop anyway, and I didn't care to ask anymore because it was just like, whatever. And then the next day I go into the shop that Mike owns, and I'm apprenticing under him. And I'm like, my professional career flashed before my eyes last night. And I told him the whole story, and he just started laughing, because like I would have been I would not have gotten a good tattoo education, and I would have been an asshole too. And I'm glad I'm not getting that here, And so with Mike, we're friends, but I'm smart enough to know that once I walk in that door and he's apprenticing me, he's my boss. There's no like, come on, man.
Yeah.
We're buddies.
Right,
like, just let me slide on this. Like, no, you can't.
That makes sense.
And, I learned to check my ego at the door because it's not my shop. I'm not the boss. And you got to remember that when someone's taken the time to teach you something that is a skill that, can be a career and make you money. It's a weird thing. So with tattooing, like, it's still old school in the sense of, if you're not a pirate, then maybe you're not going to be able to be a part of that. It's like Bones Brigade or something, and a lot of it is, it's personality based on, and more so personality than skill. If you aren't if that person doesn't gel with you, then they're never going to want to teach you, no matter how good you are. And, then there are people who just start tattooing their buddies out of their kitchen, And one guy I work with, Emmanuel Mendoza, he's an amazing artist. He started that way and then got an apprenticeship, because he's like, look at what I've done. Can you guys teach me how to do it better and safer and the right way and all that? And they saw that this guy was committed. And most people who get a tattoo apprenticeships don't last a year because it's too hard. You don't get paid to be there. I have to be there 4 days a week, at least 5 hours a day to 8 hours. And some days I'm not tattooing. If you don't tattoo, you don't make money.
Are you tattooing more now than you are doing other artwork?
No. Well, yeah, I guess so. Thanks to tattooing, I have to draw every goddamn day. Think about it like you probably, unless you have a project, you're not drawing, Like that's how I was with rock posters. And so it took me a couple of years, and it was really difficult and painful to kind of make tattooing and rock posters both work, which meant a lot of like no sleep, and a lot of like just pissing people off and apologizing and making a lot of mistakes. So now I still tattoo 4 days a week, or I will once the shops are able to open up again. And it's like a 4 day week work it, and it's really good because then I have 3 days total, or like 72 hours to work on freelance, and then I have my evenings to work on freelance as well. But it's taught me a lot of like discipline and structure, so I get to do both, and I can be more selective with my freelance now. I'm not as I got to take whatever comes in because I have bills to pay.
Do you have a tattoo that you've done so far that's like, okay, this is me really figuring it out to a certain degree? I know you're not somebody who's going to say, hell yeah, I've arrived as a tattooer, but is there a piece that you did that was like, okay.
I could definitely say, oh, there's pieces that show me I suck less now, and it's good to have support group, like at the shop. Mike and Emmanuel, Mike will be honest with me and be like, this is actually good. I could see so much improvement in this. It might not be perfect or on his level, kind of going back to, the level you want to be, that you desire to be as an artist. Like I have these two guys who are so good. I don't see them as competition. I see them as a level I want to reach. And so being around that can be kind of, frustrating and humiliating. And they have been nothing but kind as far as, or honest with telling me where I fuck up. They'll do it in front of my client, which is really embarrassing, but the client understands, like they know where I'm at. They know how much I charge, and still they were willing to get tattooed by me, and so Emmanuel and Michael will just be like, this is really good, but you need to work on this. Or what were you thinking when you did this? Try thinking this way, and you'll get a better result. And so there are some pieces like, oh yeah, what I pictured in my head actually came out, or I never used pens until I had to start tattooing. All my inking was normally done with a brush, and I couldn't do that because a tattoo machine and a tattoo needle is very similar to like a Micron or a Pitt pen. And so like a needle grouping is the same as a size, like small, extra small, medium, or whatever pen. So I'm seeing improvement, which is good, and it's getting me out of my self-made box that I put myself in, where I limit myself as to what I can do, because I feel like, well, you're self-taught, so you're not allowed to do these things. If you had gone to school, maybe you would be allowed to do it. And so it's helping me get out of that, and it's making me like drawing more. And it's I feel comfortable being influenced by tattoo art because I tattoo.
Do you feel like there's since you've been doing the poster work for a lot longer, do you feel like there's some posters you've designed or pieces that you've made that you feel like you hit a point where you're like, this is something I'm super stoked on? It doesn't have to be the one that everybody celebrates, but you personally.
Yeah, usually the stuff that I really like are the pieces that aren't very popular. But I'm like, oh my god, I progressed as an artist
Can you
with
think
this
of one
piece, or I finally.
off the top of your
Oh
head?
fuck. Well,
I can
fucking
tell
hell,
you,
man.
like, I'm a Creature fan, so I'm biased to the Creature from the Black Lagoon piece that I bought off of you. But I'm also
Yeah.
I love the Misfit stuff that you've done. I love that whole series. It feels the X-Ray series that you do. It feels like it's always existed in a sense, and it's not. It feels new and classic at the same time, and that's one of my favorite features of artwork. When I see something, I'm like, oh my god, this is like a revelation. It's such a great idea. I bet every time someone sees it, they're like, why didn't I think of this? But it's also the execution of it that's so fantastic, and we'll put some of those up so you can see them. But the taxi driver one is
Okay.
fantastic, and I think I've seen the Star Wars Leia and Han kiss just about everywhere online. Anytime I even Google Star Wars art, yeah, it's
Oh,
huge.
weird.
How about just favorite piece? You have a favorite piece that you've done?
Uh, nah. I'm gonna quote Adam Hughes. He said, "If I had a favorite piece, I'd stop drawing." Um, like the X-ray thing, the style came out of frustration with my clients. I like a lot of the bands I was working for were, like, will you do a poster for us? Yes. What's your budget? We don't have a budget. Okay, can you pay for printing? No, you're going to pay for printing. It's like, what? We're giving you the privilege to do a poster for us. And you're going to give us posters, and then you can sell posters. And, my illustration style, it took like 2 weeks to do a poster. I'm like, I can't afford to work that long. And I had been collecting like 8x10 movie stills, of like Frankenstein, shit like that. I used to live in LA, and there used to be like shops on Hollywood Boulevard. You could buy these like moldy ass, like water damaged 8x10s. And so I used to collect those, and I had one sitting out, and I took a silver Sharpie and I drew a skeleton over it. I'm like, how can I do this with screen printing? And I took some of the experience I had with the mistakes I made with screen printing and was like, oh, wow, I could do it this way. And I called up my printer and I was like, can you guys give this a shot? And they're like, yeah, sure. And it was a one-off. I didn't think it would ever take, and it did really
Which
well.
one was this again?
And it was for the Melvins. It was Frankenstein. And then right after that, I had to do a poster for a band called Swans, which was Bride of Frankenstein. And I was taking something that I really liked and trying to make something new out of it, or just try to like see what I could get away with, to be honest. And it took off really well. And I'm like, oh, I got to do more now. What am I going to do? So the next thing was the creature piece. And the thing I enjoyed the most was trying to come up with the anatomy for the creature when
That's
that doesn't
awesome.
exist. So I was having a conversation with Jason Edmiston. He's like, you're showing something to people that they've seen a million times in a new way. And I was really flattered by that. But then he's like, don't let it dominate you. And it did. I started, like, if I was at a convention and I hung up all my stuff on a wall, I couldn't tell the difference between the pieces because it was the same color palette and the same gimmick, and I started getting frustrated by that. And and this is around the time I was doing more tattooing and liking drawing. So I'm like, I'm just going to go with the old illustration style. And as soon as I did that, everybody was trying to hire me to do the anatomical
Oh,
style. And so I reached a point of I can, like, if I had to explain to myself that I can do both. It's okay. So that's what I do now. So when people hire me, I'm
yeah.
like, what are you looking for? I got this and I
I
got
don't
that.
have,
What do you
what's
want?
funny? I noticed that a lot of artists
So
have that concern, which is like, finding something that I can be known for, but then not getting pigeonholed to that presentation, to that aesthetic. And in my mind, I'm like, okay, I mean, I get that, but look at somebody like Alex Gray. There, you will never
yeah,
confuse the artist. I mean, there's some people who try to do knockoffs, but every one of his piece seems like it was created from the same place, in the same state of mind, same, right? And there's pieces that are,
yeah,
yeah, Yeah, and they're
hallucinogenic state of,
super varied and diverse, but they all kind of fit that language. And I feel like that's the ticket, is finding a few, things that people recognize your work for, and then trying to figure out how to use those tools, like signature marks type of thing, and then evolve them.
who are those two old guys from the
Yeah,
Muppets in the balcony?
Waldorf and Statler. I don't know how I know that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we all
Yeah.
have those guys in our head. And, you also have social media. And if you can have like 100 compliments, but if one person just kicks you in the dick,
I know.
you remember that more. And, I saw some negative criticism, which wasn't really constructive. And it wasn't by an artist. And I internalized it too much, and I started feeling guilty. And I was trying to make sense of other artists who, like Shepard Fairey's a good example. He's very successful, but he changes his style 10% every year.
Exactly.
Like, oh, he's going to
Exactly.
use different colors. And if you think about all the contemporary, artists out there, they kind of are copying themselves, and that is what society
it's branding.
wants.
I don't.
It's a very.
I think
tough
it's just
thing.
branding. I think you get to a point. That's what Shepard Fairey was after from the beginning. Is he was like doing satire of branding until he became branding. But I don't think that's a bad thing. It's just like, it get to a point where you created a product. You have every right to bail on it and say, I don't want to do that. But if you enjoy it and people enjoy it and are consuming it, it's like you just created a brand. And just because it's a brand doesn't mean it can't communicate a message, if that's what you're after. But if you're just creating pop art and you find an aesthetic that works, I don't see anything wrong with that. I think the point at which you bail should be the point at where you're bored. And then I think this, yeah.
I was definitely getting bored, but also there's survivor's guilt of, there are some people who, no matter how well you do, your friends will never celebrate
Not
you.
your friends.
They're only there because they want to hear all the bad shit that happens to you. They're like emotional vampires. And I think a lot of that was kind of like, in my life. I had a lot of just like negative people in my life. And I started feeling bad for succeeding. And I thought I had to dial it down so my friends wouldn't be mad at me. It's not all my friends. It was just a few, so it took me a long time to kind of like get over that, and self-esteem and all that shit. Like, being an artist isn't just about like, can I make a lot of money? Can I be well known? And, can I improve every year? It's also like, you have to learn how to live with being an artist. Like, they don't teach you that in school, of how do you deal with, low self-esteem? How do you deal with, fucking eating ramen and being poor and, just struggling. And so that's like an ongoing thing for everybody. It's part of your mental health. And I wanted to please everybody so badly. I wanted people to like me. And so I stopped enjoying doing that style until I saw people kind of ripping it off. I'm like, oh, fuck you, man. No way. It's on.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, I worked really hard at this. And it took me several years to come up with a style that was my own, that you really couldn't pick one influence. It was a lot of influences, and it was put in a blender, and I had something new with it. So yeah, I still enjoy doing it now. Sometimes I get frustrated that people don't know I can draw. They think I'm just a graphic designer, and they don't see like the drawing underneath or the collage or any of that. So it's
the new videos you do. I think
like,
really help with that. The new videos that you've been putting online. I feel like that's one of the benefits of that, is people getting to see the process.
It's something I wish I had started doing earlier, just because it's teaching me how to edit film. Like, I have to be everything for my company, my business, because it's faster and cheaper. So, and if I need to hire somebody, I need to know how to speak their language, at least on a basic level. So doing the videos is good for me because I need to be better at marketing. and it sounds terrible. But if you're going to run a business and you don't have an agent, or, like, you're not an employee, you have to learn how to do all that shit yourself. And so, yeah, doing that stuff is good. And I need to get out of my head and out of my way sometimes, because the thing I'm working on is to be less self-deprecating, because I notice sometimes when I talk to friends, like, hey, man, what's up? I just throw all this negative shit at you of, like, I suck some more. I sucked yesterday. I'm going to suck tomorrow, and I need to kind of enjoy my life instead of thinking I don't deserve to enjoy it.
That's a lot of, that's wisdom. Right there. Well, to me, that's a super wise, going back to what we said in the beginning, I feel like that encapsulates something that I wish more people would think about, because I have this feeling like I refuse to feel guilty about my hard work and what it pays off. I only feel, I won't do it, because I know that I was able to do that hard work because a lot of people sacrificed to take a lot of other shit out of my way so that I could do that hard work, including my parents and my grandparents. And so I think about all that stuff. And then I think about, like, a lot, like what we were talking about early on, a lot of these artists who are our friends at the same time, some of them are fucked up, dude, and they need to have me. Actually,
That's why they're artists.
If I think I'm not fucked up in that social sense, I have a responsibility now to model proper behavior back to them and not get mad at them for being rude or nasty or whatever it is. 'Cause I'm not mad. I don't take it personally. Teaching for 13 years and teaching high school specifically, that trains you to notice that these personality flaws have nothing to do with you. And you could have a student who's a real prick for a long time, and if you invest in that kid, and little by little he or she will start to be grateful that you never, like, flaked when they were being kind of like pricks, and everything kind of starts to go back to the most comfortable place to be, which is kindness and progression and reinforcing behavior. And the ones that don't want it, I mean, fuck them. Frankly, I just don't have time for that. And that's why I think that I think that goes back to what I was saying at the very beginning of this conversation, why I value you, is because not only do I respect your artwork and your work ethic, but I respect that we are able to have a real friendship in a sea of difficult, clashing relationships based on the fact of everybody's upbringing and insecurities and struggles. So I will not flake, and I will not waver on that. I just won't. And I tell you all the time, like, if you you're not very self-deprecating with me. I hope you may, because you know how to bring that shit around me. But the point is that it also sometimes comes across, and I hope people hear this, that if someone tells you, oh man, but I love your work, and you're like, nah, well, you don't know, it's shit, I'm doing or my life is shit, whatever it is. Sometimes I worry that I insulted that person in their mind without meaning to. Like, I thought it was good, maybe I'm an asshole, I don't know any better. And I was in that situation so many times that I realized one day, just stop, just take the fucking compliment and then go to a therapist. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. Yeah. You're going to ruin that person's experience of what they saw in your work, by putting yourself down, because you're insulting them,
unintentionally.
And I learned that from doing conventions. Yeah. I don't know. Everybody thinks they're in a race with each other, but you're more of in a race with yourself. Like, it's cool you see people running alongside you, but you shouldn't concern yourself with them at all. So if they cross the finish line or mile marker or whatever, you should be stoked for them, because you're trying to do the same thing. And none of it should be competitive. Like, I'm not going to give you my client list, and some artists do ask you for that. Like, oh, we're friends now. Can you hook me up with this person, that person? It's like, no, man, like, get it yourself. And also, what are you giving me? Nothing. So no, I'm not helping you. But, I used to think I was in a race with everyone. And then I realized, no, I'm just in a race with myself. And what are my goals? If I don't have any goals, I'm kind of fucked. So I need to really think about my future, write up a business plan or whatever, and think about like where I want to be every year, every 6 months. And my fiance Andrea and we have a business meeting every Saturday, and we talk about what we're doing as a couple. Then we talk about like what I'm trying to do with my business with the art, and then we talk about what she's trying to do with her business as well. And it's
awesome.
really helpful, like trying to, like, if you think everything's going to come naturally to you as far as like being organized, being on time, doing all that stuff, it doesn't work. You have to really seek information and education to improve your situation, whatever it is. If you have some emotional issues, maybe you should see a therapist, or whatever. More people should. But it's a weird thing. Like it's easy to learn how to draw. It's not easy to learn how to live as an artist. And there's a lot of shit you just got to figure out. And some people are either terrible with their feelings and cannot show you any kind of emotional support, or they see you as competition, and they're going to let you drown, which sucks. And then you have friends, and you have to really celebrate those people and cultivate
100%.
those people. It's important. It's such a weird thing to say. When I was 20, I would never have thought of any of that. And
that's it.
Yeah. Now I'm in my 80s.
That's the best. I think that's the best place to leave it, because that's what I hope that people get from this, is that our friendship is strong, but I also look to you as someone who's kicking ass and doing great things, and I can have both. I can be like admiring you and your work ethic, inspired by the work ethic, and also your friend. And if you have kick-ass things that happen for you, I can be like, that's fucking amazing. Go Brian. And I'm stoked on that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's
a two-way 100%.
Street. Well, dude, thank you so much. Why don't you just shout out where people could find you online, and then I'll put the little, you don't have to like memorize everything if you don't, but I'll have the producers put a little something on the.
Yeah, it's Brian, Brian Ewing, Ewing, kind of like the basketball player, the guy that got shot on Dallas. So, and that is my website and social media. You can find me that way. I don't have a cool name, like Attack cool. Peter. There's no Attack Brian.
All right, dude. Well, thank you so much, man. How great is Brian Ewing? Please, guys, remember to click like and subscribe. Help this channel grow. Remember to put your comments below. Let me know what you think. And see you next Thursday for another episode of Attack.